Olivia stood just outside the grand hall, the crisp night air rushing against her skin. From inside, waves of music, laughter, and clinking glasses spilled out through the open doors. Through the tall glass windows, she watched figures glide across the polished floor, dressed in glittering gowns and sharp tuxedos, champagne in hand. Smiles fixed in celebration. At the center of it all stood James, her ex-husband, radiant in a tailored suit, one arm wrapped around Vanessa's waist. Vanessa, who had once been Olivia's closest friend, Vanessa now wore the diamond ring that had once graced Olivia's hand. Above them, in bold, shimmering letters, a golden banner hung from the ceiling. 5 years of love, James and Vanessa. Olivia didn't blink, didn't move, just stood there, her breath steady, watching the life that could have been hers, the life she had let go. Olivia pulled her coat tighter around her. She wasn't invited, at least, not officially. Yet there she was, standing quietly in the shadows, watching a life that used to be hers. She had lost everything after their divorce. The house she decorated with her own hands gone. Most of her friends had taken James's side, believing his lies about her instability. The custody battle over their daughter, Lily, had been brutal. James, a powerful lawyer, had twisted every truth in court, until Olivia was left with only weekend visits and a mountain of debt. Inside, someone clinked a glass. James raised his drink high, flashing the same charming smile that had once made Olivia fall in love with him. To new beginnings, he said loudly, to finding real happiness and leaving the past where it belonged. The guests laughed and cheered, some looking knowingly at Vanessa, who smirked and leaned in to kiss James. Olivia's hands tightened into fists, but her face stayed calm. Their past was her life. Their new beginning built on betrayal. Her best friend had become her replacement, her enemy, and the woman raising her child most days of the week. She stepped closer to the window, her eyes fixed on the glowing lights and expensive decorations she once would have designed herself. No one inside noticed her. Not yet. But Olivia hadn't come to cause a scene or beg for anything back. No, she was too quiet, too composed, too ready. Something about her stillness felt sharp, like a storm waiting on the horizon. She took a slow breath, her reflection in the glass steady. They thought she was gone, broken, irrelevant. Tonight, they would learn how wrong they were. Because Olivia hadn't come to watch, she had come with a plan. Once a successful interior designer, now working 2 jobs, just to pay bills, Olivia lived in a small 1-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. Her days started early, making coffee at a local cafe, and ended late, cleaning offices after hours. The woman who once designed million-dollar homes now barely had time to decorate her own tiny space. Every month, most of her paycheck went toward paying debts left from her divorce. Her life hadn't always been like this. Just a few years ago, Olivia had a thriving design business, a beautiful home, and a happy little family. She was proud of her work. People trusted her taste and creativity. She had a loving husband, James, who she thought was her biggest supporter. And she had Vanessa, her best friend since college, who was like a sister to her. Everything changed the day Olivia found out James and Vanessa were having an affair. It was like someone had ripped the ground out from under her feet. She wanted to fight for her marriage at first, to understand how her life had gone so wrong. But James didn't want forgiveness. He wanted out. And he didn't just want a divorce, he wanted to destroy her. James was a charismatic lawyer, smart and charming, the kind of man who could make anyone believe him. In court, he twisted everything about Olivia, calling her unstable, too emotional to care for their daughter, Lily. And Vanessa, the same woman who used to hold Olivia's secrets, who once promised to be Lily's godmother, stood on James's side and testified against her. Olivia lost almost everything. She lost the house, the business, most of her friends, and worst of all, custody of Lily. She was allowed to see her daughter only on weekends, 2 short days that ended with tearful goodbyes every Sunday evening. Olivia blamed herself every time she looked at Lily's small face, blamed herself for not fighting harder, for trusting people who betrayed her. Still, she didn't stop living. She couldn't. She learned to survive on her own, even if it meant working long hours and eating cheap frozen dinners most nights. She spent her rare free time fixing up thrift store furniture, dreaming of one day having her own home again, one where Lily could have her own room and a little backyard. And now, the anniversary party. 5 years since James and Vanessa stood together and smiled in their wedding pictures while Olivia stood alone. She had told herself she was over it. She told herself this night didn't matter. But deep down, it did. This wasn't about revenge. Not at first. It was about proving to herself she wasn't the broken, bitter woman James had tried to paint her as. She had changed in those 5 years. Quietly, without telling anyone, Olivia had been rebuilding her life. She worked, she saved, and she learned. The woman who stood outside that party wasn't the same woman who had walked out of the courtroom in tears years ago. She was different, stronger, calmer, but carrying something secret deep inside. This anniversary wasn't just their celebration. For Olivia, it was a test, a chance to face the people who had broken her, to finally close that chapter of her life. Or at least, that's what she told herself as she walked toward the entrance that night. But the truth, even Olivia didn't know yet if this was really about closure or something else entirely, something she had quietly been planning all along. Olivia unexpectedly received an envelope in her mailbox one quiet morning. It had no return address, just her name, written neatly on the front. Inside was a cream-colored card with gold lettering. "You are cordially invited to celebrate the 5th wedding anniversary of James and Vanessa Carter." Her hands froze. James, her ex-husband; Vanessa, her former best friend. For a moment, she just stared at the words, unable to breathe. Why would they send this to her? Surely, it was a mistake, or maybe a cruel joke. Olivia tossed the card onto the kitchen counter, shaking her head. "I'm not going," she muttered to herself. Why would she? That part of her life was over. She didn't need to watch them smile and toast their perfect life while she stood there like an unwanted guest. That weekend, Lily came for her regular visit. 8 years old now, bright and curious, she was Olivia's entire world. They cooked pancakes together, laughed over silly cartoons, and went for a walk in the park. On Sunday evening, as Olivia packed Lily's little backpack, Lily suddenly said, "Mom, I wish you had a real home again like Dad and Vanessa have, with a yard and a big room for me." Olivia froze, her hands still holding a folded sweater. "Honey, we have a home," she said softly. Lily tilted her head, innocent but honest. "But it's small, and Dad says you can't have me live with you full-time because it's not big enough. I just wish," she trailed off, hugging her mom's waist. Olivia hugged her back, but inside, something cracked open. She could still hear James's voice from court years ago. "She can't provide stability. I can." He had used her small apartment and shaky finances as proof she was unfit for custody. That night, after Lily left, Olivia sat at her small kitchen table, staring at the anniversary invitation. She picked it up and turned it over in her hands. Someone had sent it on purpose. No one accidentally invites their ex-wife to a party like that. But who and why? At first, she thought about tearing it up and throwing it away. But Lily's words wouldn't stop echoing in her head. "I wish you had a real home again, Mom, like Dad and Vanessa have." Olivia's chest tightened. She had spent years trying to move forward, avoiding old wounds, telling herself it didn't matter what they thought of her. But it did matter, because their betrayal had left her with nothing. And even now, it was affecting Lily's life. Slowly, Olivia set the invitation back down. This time, neatly on the table, she sat back and whispered to herself, "Fine, I'll go." Not out of anger, not to beg, not to fight. She would go for one reason only, to face the past head-on and finally close it. But when she said it out loud, she noticed something else. A strange calmness inside her. Like she had already decided this moment wouldn't belong to them. It would belong to her. She opened her closet and took out a simple, but elegant dress she hadn't worn in years. She smoothed the fabric and smiled faintly. She wasn't planning to start a fight, but she was planning something. The audience didn't know what yet. Even Olivia herself wasn't sure if it was only closure she wanted or something more. And as for the invitation, one question kept echoing in her mind. Who had sent it to her? And why did it feel like someone wanted her there for a reason? Olivia enters the party. Heads turned, whispers spread like ripples in water. The grand ballroom glowed with crystal lights and soft music. But for a moment, everything seemed to pause. Guests stared, champagne glasses froze mid-sip. James stood near the stage, holding Vanessa's hand, his smile slipping as soon as he saw Olivia. Vanessa blinked in shock, then quickly put on her perfect party face. "Olivia," Vanessa said, loudly, her voice carrying across the room. What a surprise. Her eyes scanned Olivia's dress, her hair, everything as if looking for flaws. "I didn't realize you'd be brave enough to show up." Olivia gave a polite smile, calm and steady. "I got an invitation," she said softly. Guests exchanged curious looks. Everyone knew the history. Everyone knew the divorce scandal. How James's unstable ex-wife had lost custody of their child. Or at least, that was the story James and Vanessa had sold years ago. Vanessa stepped closer, her smile sharper now. "Well, I guess some people don't understand boundaries. But it's good to see you're holding up." Her tone dripped with fake kindness. "I hope you've been taking your medications. You remember, right? The ones you needed when things got difficult." A murmur ran through the guests. Olivia's face didn't change. Her eyes were calm, her breathing even. James walked up, standing slightly in front of Vanessa, his expression cold. "You shouldn't be here, Olivia. You have no place at this party." His voice was low but carried weight, the same voice he used to crush opponents in court. For a moment, Olivia was back in that courtroom, watching James lean forward, telling the judge she was too emotional, too unstable, too dangerous for full custody. And Vanessa, sitting there with tears in her eyes, claiming she'd seen Olivia struggle to cope, painting a picture of a woman falling apart. The lies had worked. She had lost Lily, her business, even her reputation. James's wealthy clients had quietly stopped hiring her. Within months, her interior design company had closed. She had been left alone, blamed, and humiliated. But tonight was different. Tonight, she wasn't shaking or crying. She stood tall, steady, clutching a small handbag in her hands. Vanessa tilted her head. "Oh, and I see you still have that old purse," she said, forcing a laugh. "Some things never change, I guess." Olivia met her gaze calmly. "Some things do," she replied, her tone quiet but firm. Something about her composure unsettled them both. Vanessa crossed her arms, eyes narrowing. James stepped closer, whispering just loud enough for Olivia to hear. "If you're thinking about causing a scene, don't. You won't win this time either." Olivia simply smiled. "I'm not here to win anything." That calmness made them nervous. James glanced at her handbag, suspicious. "What's in there?" he asked sharply. Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Just what I need." And she walked past them into the crowd. The speech, whispers followed her everywhere. "Is that James's ex-wife? Didn't she lose custody? Didn't she have some breakdown?" Guests whispered about the past, and Vanessa felt it. She forced herself to laugh louder, hold James's arm tighter, pretend everything was perfect. But her eyes kept darting toward Olivia, watching her every move. Olivia, on the other hand, didn't flinch. She greeted a few familiar faces, politely, even smiling at one or two people who had turned away from her during the divorce. She didn't argue, didn't explain. That silence felt heavy, like she knew something they did. At one point, Vanessa pulled aside a friend and whispered sharply, "Who sent her the invitation?" "This wasn't me. Was it you?" The friend shook her head, confused. James, now visibly irritated, grabbed a microphone near the stage and tapped. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, forcing a smile, "thank you for coming tonight to celebrate 5 wonderful years of love, trust, and success. He kissed Vanessa's cheek as the crowd clapped. Vanessa and I are grateful for your support, and we look forward to many more years of happiness. When the clapping died down, someone from the crowd, maybe joking, maybe mocking, called out, "Let Olivia say something." Laughter rippled through the room, mostly awkward, but some guests looked curious. Vanessa's smile, stiff. "Oh, I don't think," but Olivia had already stepped forward, walking gracefully to the stage. She moved like she belonged there, like she wasn't afraid of anything anymore. "Thank you," Olivia said, taking the microphone with a small smile. Her voice was soft, calm, but carried easily across the silent room. She glanced at James and Vanessa, then at the crowd. "I wasn't expecting to speak tonight, but since I'm here, maybe it's time I said a few words." Her eyes swept across the guests, her smile unreadable. "5 years ago," she continued, "a lot changed in my life, and for a long time, I thought those changes were the end of my story." She paused, letting her words hang in the air. "But sometimes, endings are really just the beginning." Vanessa shifted uncomfortably. James folded his arms. Olivia's grip on the microphone was steady, her eyes calm but sharp. Something about her tone was different, stronger. The crowd leaned in slightly, sensing something big was about to happen. No one noticed her hand, brushing the small handbag at her side. Whatever she had brought with her, she was ready to use it. And the room, once filled with music and laughter, now waited in complete silence as Olivia smiled faintly and said, "I just want to say thank you." The words were soft but carried weight, like the beginning of something none of them had expected. The revelation. Olivia revealed she was now the owner of a major design firm, one of the top in the city, rebuilt quietly over the last 5 years. She looked around the silent room, holding the microphone with steady hands. "Some of you know I used to have a design business. Some of you also know how it ended. What you don't know," she said, her voice clear and calm, "is that I rebuilt it. I started again from nothing. And now I am proud to say I own Heaven Interiors, the company behind many of the homes and buildings you all admire today." Gasps rippled through the guests. Heaven Interiors was well known, especially among wealthy circles. People glanced at each other. "Shh." Olivia smiled gently, eyes resting on James and Vanessa. "James, you once told me I'd never succeed without you, that losing everything was my fault. But you were wrong. Losing everything taught me how to rebuild from ashes." She paused, her voice holding emotion, but not anger. "And Vanessa," Olivia continued, her voice steady, "you showed me what betrayal looks like. Because of you, I learned to recognize true loyalty when it finally came my way." Vanessa's face went pale. James clenched his jaw, looking like he wanted to speak. But Olivia kept going. "For years I stayed quiet. I worked hard, alone, starting over, while everyone thought I had nothing left. But I didn't come here tonight to show anger or revenge. I came here with gratitude." James stepped forward, trying to interrupt. "That's enough, Olivia." She raised her hand slightly, calm but firm. "I'm almost done." Then she turned to the crowd. "Some of you may not know this, but this property, this beautiful house we're all standing in tonight, went into foreclosure 6 months ago." She paused, letting the words sink in. "And last week, I signed the final papers. This house, this land, it now belongs to me." The room exploded into shocked whispers. Vanessa gasped, turning to James, eyes wide. "What is she talking about?" James's face turned red as he stared at Olivia. "You're lying." Olivia calmly pulled a folded paper from her handbag. "This is the deed. It's mine now. Effective today." She placed it on the table next to her, still holding the microphone. Vanessa's voice cracked. You can't do this. This is our home." Olivia's eyes softened, but her tone stayed even. "It was your home, but now it's mine." The guests were stunned. Some covered their mouths, others whispered, "How did this happen?" James stepped forward again, his voice sharp. "You think this makes you better than us? You think owning this house erases what happened?" Olivia shook her head slowly. "No, James, this isn't about being better. It's about being free. You took so much from me, but you also gave me something. Fire. You made me fight, work harder, become stronger than I ever thought I could be. For that, I thank you." She stepped down from the stage, walking toward Lily, who had been sitting quietly near the front, watching everything. Olivia knelt, smiling gently at her daughter. "Sweetheart," she whispered, pulling a shiny key from her bag. "This is for us. Our new home." Lily's eyes widened. "This house? We can live here?" Olivia nodded, smiling with tears in her eyes. "Yes, baby, we can finally live together, like we always dreamed." The crowd was silent. All eyes were on Olivia and Lily. Olivia stood, turning one last time to James and Vanessa. "I don't want revenge. I don't want to hurt you the way you hurt me. I just wanted to show my daughter that no matter how hard life gets, you can always rise again. That's what tonight is about." Without another word, she took Lily's hand and walked out of the ballroom, leaving stunned guests and a humiliated James and Vanessa behind. Olivia didn't look back, and she didn't smile in victory. She simply felt free, truly free. The aftermath: James faced career and reputation collapse after financial scandals were exposed during Olivia's speech. News about the foreclosure and his hidden debt spread quickly among his wealthy clients and partners. Within days, calls stopped coming, contracts were cancelled, and his once perfect image as a brilliant lawyer with an ideal life was shattered. People who had once admired him now avoided him, whispering behind his back. Vanessa, furious and embarrassed, locked herself inside what was no longer her home. Friends who had once adored her now treated her like a joke. The woman who testified against her best friend, only to lose everything to her. Even her social media, once full of happy pictures and perfect life quotes, went silent. She blamed James. She blamed Olivia. But deep down, she knew their perfect life had fallen apart because of the choices they made. Olivia's new beginning. Olivia, on the other hand, didn't gloat. She didn't post about her victory or say, "I told you so." She simply focused on what really mattered: moving into her new home with Lily. The house, once filled with memories of betrayal, was now filled with laughter and hope. Lily got her own room, walls painted soft pink, her favorite color, and a big window overlooking the garden. On their first night, they sat on the floor eating pizza from paper plates, boxes still stacked around them. Lily smiled at her mom and said softly, "This feels like home, Mom." Olivia smiled, tears in her eyes. "It is home, sweetheart." Out. With her stable income from Haven Interiors and proof of her financial stability, Olivia's lawyer filed for a custody review. The judge looked at her new situation, her steady life, and the strong bond between her and Lily. Joint custody was granted, something Olivia had dreamed of for years. When she picked Lily up for their first full week together, she didn't feel like she had won anything. It wasn't about defeating James or humiliating Vanessa anymore. It was about reclaiming the life that had been stolen from her and proving to herself she could rise again. Peace, at last. Each morning, Olivia made breakfast in their new kitchen, smiling as Lily laughed over cartoons before school. Each night, she tucked Lily into bed, feeling a peace she hadn't felt in years. She sometimes thought of James and Vanessa, but only briefly. Their downfall wasn't her joy. It was simply the result of their choices. Olivia had chosen differently. She had chosen to rebuild, to stand tall, to let go of bitterness. For the first time in years, her heart felt light. The scars were still there, but they no longer hurt. They were reminders of how far she had come. This wasn't about revenge. It was about freedom. And Olivia had finally found it. The last good night. Olivia tucked Lily into her new bed, pulling the soft blanket up to her chin. The room smelled of fresh paint and new beginnings. The walls were soft pink, just like Lily had asked, and the little bookshelf in the corner already held her favorite storybooks. Lily snuggled into her pillow, looking around with sleepy eyes. "Mum," she whispered, "are we happy now?" Olivia smiled gently and brushed a strand of hair from her daughter's face. "We're free, baby, and that's even better." Lily smiled back, her eyes slowly closing. Within moments, she was asleep, her breathing soft and peaceful. Olivia sat on the edge of the bed for a moment, just watching her daughter safe, calm, and finally home. She kissed Lily's forehead and whispered, "Sweet dreams, my love." Then she stood and turned off the light, leaving the door slightly open just the way Lily liked it. Walking into the living room, Olivia paused by the big window. Outside, the night sky stretched wide, dotted with stars. She wrapped her arms around herself, feeling the cool silence of the house. It wasn't empty. It was full of hope, of second chances. For years, she had carried pain, betrayal, and guilt. She had felt like a failure, like someone who had lost everything. But tonight, in this house, she owned, with her daughter sleeping safely under the same roof, she felt something new. Peace. A single tear traced down her cheek, not from sadness, but from relief, from pride. Because she had done it, she had rebuilt her life, not out of revenge, but out of freedom, out of love, for herself, and for Lily. Olivia took a deep breath, smiled through the tears, and whispered softly, "We're home." And for the first time in a very, very long time, she believed it. Thank you so much for staying with us until the very end. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more powerful journeys. Until next time, take care and keep believing.